Hello and welcome to episode 80 of the Pens and Pixels Popcast. I'm your host, Cal G, and to my left is the coordinator extraordinaire,
Mike Kent.
The Popcast is a place to come to if you want to hear about the art and news of video games, comics, and movies that week.
So if you like sass, you like crass, then you don't want to give this podcast a pass. Well, I did it.
Sizzling.
Sizzling.
Smoking. Alright, this week we're going to go over the newsy news you need to know as per usual. Mm-hmm. And then after the break, we're going to be talking about reining in creators. Mm-hmm. Yes, George Lucas. That's immediately who jumped to your mind. We're going to be talking about the creator and whether or not, taking creative control away from them or letting them go loose is best for a show in particular.
Or, well, yeah, almost anything, but mainly it really does apply to shows. We'll be talking about the fact that, Netflix has given free reign to a lot of creators to create content without worrying about censorship boards or big-time companies just saying, like, oh, you're not making enough money with this. Please change it so it's more pleasing. Mm-hmm. We worry about your ratings. And how that's changed the game for some in maybe a negative way and maybe a positive way.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Creators, we gotta be reined in. Gotta reel them in sometimes. Sometimes you get too wacky.
No one reins us in.
No, and the show is worse for it. Okay. Is there any housekeeping, Mike?
No, just the usual. Make sure to tune in for the OJAM, and thanks to everyone who came out last night for. This is Friday for us recording, but so last night was Thursday for the drink and draw. It's always great to see everyone there, and keep tuned to Facebook and Twitter and all that for any upcoming events that we have coming up this summer. Great.
Hope everyone's having a lovely E3 by the time you're listening to this. You probably know all the announcements or know most of the announcements. So, what happened? Tell me.
Go back in time.
Go back in time, and then fucking tell me now, so I know.
There's this button on SoundCloud that you hit, and it just reverses time for your audio. It's like what's that stupid movie with the mailbox that goes back in time?
The Time Traveler's Wife? Is that it?
No, that's the astronaut's wife.
No, there's something called the Time Traveler's Wife.
Is there?
I'm like
there's
almost
one with
certain.
Oh God, what's her name? Shoot.
Rachel McAdams.
No. Brunette was in Miss Congeniality.
Oh, yeah, Miss Congeniality.
I want to say Demi Moore, but it's not. They're like both the same age.
Sandra Bullock.
That's it. Sandra Bullock was the girl, and she's in a house, and she keeps putting letters in her mailbox, and she has like a back and forth talk.
I swear to God, it's Time Traveler's Wife.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Really?
What a poor name for a movie.
It is.
I'm judging something that
I love the joke, though, where someone said, like, the guy put his dick in the mailbox, and then she opens it up, and she's like, oh!
That's how it's gotta be.
So we have a button for that.
Yeah, it's the Time Traveler's Wife button. Just hit that, come back in time, tell us all the juicy gossip, and then leave.
Don't send us your dick.
And then we'd have all the hot scoops. All right, into the newsy news. Here's some hot news for you. Mm-hmm. The Podchaser beta's up.
It is.
It is.
It is it?
Yeah, it is. By the time you listen to this, there will be a site called Podchaser up. It's a new platform. It's like the IMDb of podcasts, where you can go and you can surf and you can rate episodes and find new things. There'll be trending things and whatever. And we'd really appreciate it if you could go in there with the beta key Popcast, all lowercase, POPCAST.
There you go. You can
and
spell.
don't interrupt me, bitch. And then go to our episodes, and if you like them, rate them 5 stars or whatever the fuck they're using. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, give us a rating. Give us a like.
Guys.
Let us know what episodes you like, what episodes and content you like. The more you guys do this on this service, we can actually track and find out what kind of content you like the most. Be sure that we provide you with that more often than not, because most of the time we're just 47. Is that good?
Yeah. We're like, was that a good episode?
Did
people like that? Or did they hate that so they all came flocking to it?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So let us know. And join in on using our what are they called? Mega keys?
Yeah, they're called. It's a beta key. So when you go to beta.podchaser.com and you'll be able to type in a beta key, and it's just Popcast, just the name of our show, all lowercase.
Mm-hmm. And give us that sweet ratings.
Yeah, sweet love.
Yeah.
Sweet nasty love.
All right.
On to the real news.
First up,
Wonder Woman's done quite well.
It has done quite well, which is incredible. It means so much.
It made $103.1 million in its opening weekend. And just for a little perspective, that's this is adjusted for inflation. It did better than Iron Man, which did 98.6. And Iron Man was also kind of the start of the MCU and stuff, so you don't expect it to do that much. But it did better than Doctor Strange, which was 85 million. Did better than Thor, 65 million. And it did less than Deadpool 132. I don't care. Yeah. That's fine. But that's super cool.
No, it's like we were making jokes for years where like the bigwigs up top were sitting around going, no one likes vaginas. Them titties don't belong on TVs.
You can have them in the movie, but they can't be on the poster. Like,
Yeah, they don't get toys. Guys don't want to play with plastic titties.
And little do they know, people want to play with plastic titties.
They do.
So, like, this is really interesting, actually. Like, it is like I don't want to say a beacon of hope, but like
it is a beacon of hope.
Like in my mind, right? Like I was listening to a podcast where they were doing, they do summer movie bets, right? This is the Slash Filmcast for listeners if you want to go check that out. And like the one guy was like, he loves Wonder Woman. He's like all for equality and stuff. But even he was like, cynically in his mind, he was like, like I just don't think people are going to accept it. Like for multiple reasons. He thought because there's a female lead, because of the Ghostbusters reaction that he saw with all female leads, because it's also in the DCU, which is now like in his mind like a tarnished thing. Like it's just been shit throughout basically.
But the Ghostbusters thing was a more of a jarring thing because like
it was already something.
Yeah.
And then they gender swapped it. So people were angry.
The gender swapping was a big thing too. Like people were getting tired of gender swapping. Thor turning into a woman, and the list goes on. Iron Man becoming a woman. Blah blah blah. Which like I mean we don't care, but idiots do. And that was like the thing. And then suddenly now their beloved team was switching genders, which again does not matter, but whatever. Wonder Woman doesn't have that. Wonder Woman was always the representation of the first great female superhero, and like to have her come on and be that means that there's less resistance to it. Like they're all like, "Oh yeah, it's Wonder Woman." But I always thought she would just be a hard sell on her own because her costume never really changed over all the years. She was always in the big red hooker boots, and I mean it's changed now where it's a little bit more. I mean it's kind of the same thing, but it's more heroic.
It's a little more modern looking.
Yeah. So like I always thought like the idea of this Amazonian princess warrior going out there and saving the day would be hard. Then again, Xena was a thing.
Yeah, that's true. No, you're right though. Again, in my mind, it's a little harder to sell than of like alien man punches things hard.
Yeah.
Man dresses as bat is rich. Like this is like Amazonian god lives on an island of only women and all this shit. So,
but like we were all looking at Black Widow as being the savior, right? Because we could all take that like a woman who wears it's a cat suit, but still she's wearing full body coverage.
Yep.
And she's just
she's a known quantity now.
Yeah.
People know her because she's been in the MCU for like the last 10 years. So.
And I would have taken her as like a more believable, more easily digestible character, but apparently at like the Marvel Cinematic Universe paved the way for everyone to start accepting anything.
Yeah.
We got magic. We got all of it now.
We got Ant-Man. We got fucking Doctor Strange. And now we got Wonder Woman.
And now we got an amazing Wonder Woman, apparently.
Yeah, so that's great. Neither of us has still seen it, so you can take away our nerd cred anytime.
But I'm super happy that it's done so well, and I really do think it's going to make an impact. I think, just because it's making so much money to the our jokey,
the higher ups,
our jokey scotch drinking like old men sitting around are going to be like, they like the titties, more titties.
So yeah, they just open up a drawer and they're like all the rejected files that they just rejected immediately. Yeah. They're like, oh okay, so Black Cat, Siren, all these other ones, all these ones they just rejected immediately based on the premise of it being a woman. They're like, okay.
It's going to become DC's thing, though, which I find interesting, is, like, they're going to do Batgirl next.
You're right, and they're doing Gotham City Sirens. Yeah.
So they're going to become the leading force of feminism inside of the comic book movies, which will give them an edge.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
And Batgirl's being done by
Joss Whedon,
who's going to do it so much justice. Like, there's just no way that movie's going to be, like, bad. And I mean, like, below 50%. And Gotham City Sirens, let's just hope for the best.
Well, Jeff Johns has a full hand in that one from the very beginning. It's a new director. Same thing with Suicide Squad 2. It's being built from the ground up type thing. So things can still be saved. Man of Steel 2 could still be saved. It's the whole universe isn't done for.
No.
It'd be really interesting if this universe finally takes off and it had such a rocky start. But again, I always try to look back at the MCU, and I wasn't honestly blown away with the MCU at the beginning. Not that the movies were bad, but like I liked Iron Man a lot, and then the first Captain America movie is a little dull at the time.
It was a little dull.
It's not a bad movie, but like a little dull at the time. And then like Thor just did nothing for me. And it wasn't really again until Avengers that I was like, oh, I'm back on, But yeah, I the first 3 movies of that franchise, I was like, I liked Iron Man a lot, but the other 2 I was just kind of lukewarm on.
Yeah, I mean...
And, it didn't get the hate and reverence that fucking Batman vs. Superman got or Suicide Squad, and they're not that bad. But
the funny thing for me is, like, everyone walked out of Iron Man, and I always use this quote. One of my friends, the mother is from an African country, and she still got her accent. And she didn't like watching any movies, but then Tony forced her to watch Iron Man. And then every time she goes over, she's like, "Oh, we should watch the Iron Face. Let's watch Iron Face again." And I love that, right? But that was like my definition of the reaction to Iron Man, and this like the weirdness of having everyone accept a superhero movie. But I watched it, and I was like, okay.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't blown away.
I was totally blown away by Iron Man. It was like one of the best superhero movies I'd seen at that point.
Oh, it was. It was the best superhero film done to that point, but I wasn't as enamored as everyone else was.
Interesting.
Captain America came out, and I was intrigued because it was so dull and off-putting, and they weren't really focusing on his powers, because like the Captain America we all know was the guy who does quadruple backflip while bouncing around 3 shields and then jumps off his shield and kicks a person, right? He does that later on.
Yeah,
but
they built up to it.
Yeah, they built up to it, but like in the very beginning, it wasn't like that. It was really just Captain America's story.
Yeah, it was like a war movie.
It was like a war movie.
Yeah.
And like that was, I'm like, oh, are they going to go different directions with this and start exploring different places? And then the MCU evolved into what we all knew and love. But like, yeah, at that point at the very beginning, you're right. I don't think I was like, I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm interested that people are liking this, but like, it's still not me.
Yeah.
It wasn't until Avengers that I felt like it was my.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that says something. So.
Yeah.
DC might have gone at it a little differently. They tried to do Avengers first, and they failed, and whatever.
And now they're doing it the right way. They're going like, okay, Wonder Woman, Aquaman,
Batgirl,
blah blah blah.
Gotham City Sirens is Avengers again, but whatever.
Although again, they're doing Justice League next year.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. Maybe it'll be real hit and miss.
Yeah.
Next up, we were talking about Ghostbusters, and so was Dan Aykroyd still somehow. That's a movie from last year that he's still talking about. And he's reaming out the director Paul Feige. Feige? That's how you say it? He says, "The girls are great in it. Kate McKinnon, Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig. What wonderful, wonderful players they are. And Leslie Jones. I was really happy with the movie." It's like he forgot about her.
Yeah, he's like, and the other one, the black girl.
He's like, oh, fuck, right. "I was really happy with the movie, but it cost too much, and Sony does not like to lose money. They don't. Well, no one does.
No one, yeah.
It made a lot of money around the world, but it just cost too much, making it economically not feasible to do another one. So that's too bad." And then he goes, without even being asked to elaborate, Aykroyd went on. "The director, he spent too much on it. He didn't shoot the scenes we suggested to him, and several scenes were going to be needed. And he said, nah, we don't need them. And then we tested the movie, and they needed them, so they had to go back. About $30 to $40 million in reshoots. So he will not be back on the Sony lot anytime soon."
Dude.
I don't think he's supposed to be saying shit like that.
No.
Hey, there you go.
And I don't think he has that kind of power.
Oh, you never know. Dan Aykroyd's...
But come back and be like, he's not coming back on Sony's lot, and Sony's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, well, I mean, Dan Aykroyd's always been a little crazy.
He has. He's always been pretty much, like, pretty outspoken.
I mean, he's basically his character in Ghostbusters.
But this whole thing reads like a crazy man. He's just like, oh, what wonderful people. They're wonderful. And the black one. And he's like, I was really happy with it. I loved the movie. The movie was perfect, but he spent too much money on it, so it was shitty. You're like, wait, what? And then
what does that mean then? Yeah,
and then even the writer puts in, without even being asked to elaborate, he keeps going. Like, the guy puts the mic up and goes, so, you worked on Ghostbusters. And he just started vile.
He's like, now's my chance.
He's just vomiting word salad out there. The guy's just like, I can't take the mic away.
It sucks we probably won't be seeing Ghostbusters again.
Is the male Ghostbusters one even happening anymore?
I don't know. They might not want to risk it now. If this one did, poor enough, they're probably just like...
And imagine the controversy of like, oh, the female one failed and the male one worked. And I don't even think you want to go through that world. No, you don't. Just cancel it now. Chop it off. Yep. It sucks, but that's how it's going to be, Aykroyd. Yep. Make something new. You're a creative guy. Ghostbusters were good. What are you even doing? I don't even know what you do anymore. He narrates, like, UFO documentaries. Like, that's what he does, and he makes Crystal Skull vodka. The insanity and the random blurb he has here, and then you tell me he's doing UFO documentaries. Aykroyd is, like, legit into, like, occult stuff. Like, he's, like, he's very much into, like, the ghosts and the dimensions. I remember those UFOs and stuff. Remember those documentary shows he used to do all the time where he'd walk around and be like, hey, this is Area 51, but I thought he was just, like, being, like, we'll pay you $6 million. No, yeah, he's, like, legitimate interest. They probably didn't have to pay him. He probably just showed up on set and started fucking spouting stuff. Yeah. He's like, I heard there was an Area 51 doc, and there was like, we're just students, we can't afford to pay you, Mr. Aykroyd. He's like, that's wonderful, kids. Yeah, I'll start narrating. Area 51 guards are just like, he's out there all the time. Hi, Dan. Yeah, they're like super chill with him. He's constantly taking pictures with the was it the blackmail box? The what? there's a mailbox outside of, not outside of Area 51, but close by, where it's supposed to be like a drop site for secret messages. It's an unmarked mailbox, and everyone thinks it's where people collect messages for the aliens.
He's trying to fit himself in there. Like him and the guards just have this fucking relationship. Yeah. And like they're sitting beside the fence, like, each side of the fence, and like they're like actively like pouring whiskey in his coffee, and they're pouring a little in theirs. He's like, "I know what you got back there." "We know you do, Dan." Like, just a little sip. "Has a wife and kids." Just
they're good, but you're gonna tell me about the aliens tonight, right? "Yeah, at some point I will."
"Yeah, at some point."
"Yeah, sure, we'll find them."
"He'll be back again." They're just looking from the outlook. They just see him. Yeah. He's like going back and forth trying to find a break in the perimeter anywhere. Like the new guy's like, "What is that?" "Oh, that's just Dan Aykroyd."
Yeah. This is a good day. Usually it's the bad days where he gets stuck in the fence.
He's like, he has like those cartoon bushes in front of him. He's like hiding beside the mailbox, to see, like what he'll put there. Just drinking Crystal Skull vodka. And he's tweeting out like, "Ghostbusters failed because they spent too much fucking money on it. 30 to 40 million. Normal movies cost that much. How do they spend that much on reshoots?"
Halfway through a tweet. "Oh wait, there's an alien." No, it wasn't.
Never mind. So that's Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd's a funny guy.
He's a funny guy. I do like him, actually.
Next up is a fucking weird story. Breaking Bad virtual reality project in the works from Vince Gilligan, the creator of Breaking Bad. The saga of Walter White may not just be over just yet. Vince Gilligan, creator of Breaking Bad, is teaming with Sony's PlayStation division to create a non-game virtual reality experience based on the iconic show. And that's basically it.
So it's a first-person episode.
Yeah, I guess, right? Like, I don't know.
I guess you get to watch him make meth.
Yeah. So Vince Gilligan did say, we set up a day at our campus and we brought 7 of our best showrunners to work with Vince and some other folks, and they just played around with VR. Several of them were intrigued, but Vince was the one who said, "I really want to do something with this. I want to experiment with this." I mean, storytelling in VR is something yet to be like really explored, and by someone who created Breaking Bad. That's a cool thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they need to use a Breaking Bad license to explore this, but I bet that's that's the headline, right?
See,
Breaking Bad.
This is the foray for the technology that has to work. There are a lot of companies out there right now trying to produce programs, like fully finished things, right? Like, this is my painting program, this is my modeling program, this is my whatever, right? Like, they're going to create the new tools for it. But the technology is not ready for the tools yet, right? But what it is ready for is for people to pick it up and start experimenting with it. Mm-hmm. We've never done, like you said, any sort of storytelling. If we're going to make a video game inside of VR, how do we make it where there's a story being told?
Yeah.
How do we make it encompass the things that we love in our current games and start working into VR? It takes a movie director to sit back and figure out how to do it right, which sets the standard for how you tell a story inside of VR.
Yeah, exactly. You can set the new standard. Like, people didn't know how to use action in 3D very well until Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time did it, with the Z-targeting and stuff, and then everyone fucking copied that.
Yeah, and lock-on targeting was,
so it's the same thing, right? This is a new medium where we have to experiment with storytelling techniques and whatever else. I hope they don't do something that's just as lame as, like, The Eyes of Jesse, and it's like Firewatch, and you get to walk around as Jesse in a meth lab, and pick something up and be like, dude, like whatever.
The other thing, though, is that, like, considering how graphic fucking Breaking Bad is, like, can you imagine they're, like, recreating the tub scene or something?
That'd be great.
Where you're going to be mopping up guts, and you're like, oh god, it's so real. It's eating through my shoes. I think I can smell it.
Yeah, or like, do you retell Breaking Bad through this? Do you do, it's over now. Do you do something past the end of it? Do you do something in the middle that wasn't shown? Just like, because there was time passes in Breaking Bad where they were just montages of creating meth for months and stuff. Do you do like a day in the life and it's just like an interaction with a day, like an average day between them? Like, what's interesting? I'm more excited about this because I'm a Breaking Bad fan. I know you aren't, Mike.
No.
Not as much. Or at all.
At all.
I love that show, but like, so I am a little intrigued, but I just don't want this to be like a forced thing where it's like, after Jesse, spoilers for Breaking Bad, close your eyes or ears for the next 5 seconds.
Just everyone closes their eyes and just keeps listening.
Plug all orifices for the next 10 seconds. Jesse escapes the Nazis that were keeping him. After that, and they're just like, oh, Jesse created meth after that too. He just kept going, and you're just like, oh, or like whatever, because it was kind of left to your imagination, right? Like I don't know if I want that, but maybe I do. They're great storytellers, so I don't know.
Yeah, and for me, like I don't really care about what the content is. This could be anything. I'm just really interested in seeing VR explored correctly. Currently, right now with games, the biggest one is Star Trek VR, the Star Trek experience in VR. Which I found is a really interesting joke, and something I've seen as a repeat inside of it was Penny Arcade made a joke that they do a comparison of jumping in on, like, let's say Overwatch or any other online multiplayer game, and like, hey, we should be on the payload, and then they're running around going, fuck you, ass basket, shove it in your ass, fuck you, like, just crazy, and then jump into VR experience, and you're like, thank you for the report, sir, and like everyone's actually going around handing out their reports and doing their job because that's part of the experience of doing Star Trek correctly, and it's all polite and friendly. This is like that's an interesting fact that they would do that in a more immersive environment where you're less removed, where you're more of a person, right? Because like when you're removed in a game, you're so far away from it that you don't have to worry. But if you're in the first person's eye of him and you're literally sitting inside of it, you're probably less likely to go up and be an asshole because you feel a little bit more human.
Probably.
So like that's an interesting experience. And then with this, I'm more interested in seeing what, I don't care about Breaking Bad, but I'm interested in seeing what they do and how they tell a story. Do they do it in a way that makes it where I'm like, I could stick this thing on my face and watch a story, So I love hearing about people taking on this technology in the right way.
Yeah, really interesting. Speaking of, sorry, this reminded me of something. There's a whole community of people online who have modded Grand Theft Auto 3, and they just recreate like a normal city, and everyone follows the laws. There's a guy who gets into like a street sweeper and very slowly just goes up and down, sweeping nothing because there's no dust in that game because it's fucking PS2 era, and he just goes very slowly up and down, and that's what he does. He doesn't cause any trouble. No one's doing anything, and like they almost like there's no fun in that really, but people do it. They just have this weird community based around it, and they all chat. Yeah, and they kind of thrive on assholes coming in and running around and being dicks, and then the whole like city has to like converge on them and be like, "You're wrong," and then they take them down and put them in jail, and then you're literally just like banned from the game, and you're like, oh, like it's such an interesting mindset for like that just happens organically, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's like Sims or any of those. There's some sort of addiction towards simulating real life, and then having infinite control like that, right? Because there's a level of control with all of it that you can't have.
It turns into the Purge for like any time anyone causes any trouble. Like they're just like
or children,
fuck this person in particular.
Or Children of the Corn.
Yeah, exactly.
You show up and just everyone's like, ah, and points at him. Imagine if you're just like a random person, you log in and you're just like, oh, it's just like Grand Theft Auto, and you go around and you start beating up whores and stuff, and then the whole town just like, all their heads keep turning as you walk by. And that's the communication with the channel. Everyone look at him.
Creepy. Yeah. But yeah, it's so interesting to me when those things happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, next up, Seth Rogen criticizes Sony Pictures' plan to release clean versions of films. So this initiative is Sony's going to release a movie. Let's say I don't want to use Sausage Party as an example. Okay. Actually, let's use Sausage Party as an example. It's an R-rated film, and it gets released, and it's R-rated. And then on iTunes, you'll also have the option to buy the clean version, which would be like a version they would air on TV. So all the swearing's taken out, neutered. It's basically, I'm assuming that movie would be nothing. It would be like just 30 seconds of a sausage and then the end. But let's assume, a different movie, like a normal R-rated movie, a comedy or something, right? It would just be the clean version, which no one really wants. But and Seth Rogen's super against this. In my head, I'm just like, yeah, I mean, they already existed on TV and stuff. If someone really wants that, go for it, buy it,
Well, I mean, I get the point where he's like, I created this content for a particular audience, and I don't need to hack it into pieces. And probably he's more concerned about his films becoming worse, which they will be, because like without dick and fart jokes, like it's not a movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, Superbad without dick and fart jokes is just two kids who are kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can't even talk about getting laid, so they're just like running around trying to get, and they probably can't even say booze, so it's like just...
entire chunks are cut out.
Yeah.
It's just the fat kid wants to be popular, and then he's not.
Yeah.
And then they separate.
Yeah. And then they go and have a sleepover, and everything's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like that's what I mean. Like they become crappier movies, so he's probably just like, I don't want them to be
for
that
sure.
crappy.
But if you're that kind of shitty person who wants that, I think you deserve it. If you really think of like a G-rated version of Superbad, it's a great idea. Okay.
But I gotta think it's almost like lazy parents that want this, so they're just like, I want to watch a Seth Rogen film, but my kid won't go to bed. So I want to have a PG version of Seth Rogen film, so I can watch Seth Rogen films with my kid. Or something.
Again, that's a stupid person who deserves what they get.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just like, what do you guys even really want? Don't watch the Seth Rogen film. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
You chose to breed. Deal with the fact that you're going to be watching My Little Pony and SpongeBob until he turns 13.
Yeah, watch Peppa Pig.
There you go.
Watch Arthur.
Yeah, or
having fun isn't hard when you have a library.
Or do what Kevin Smith does and get stoned and watch Dora the Explorer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, maybe there's some artistic integrity thing caught up in all this, but personally, like
although it's hard to imagine Seth Rogen having fucking artistic integrity.
Hey, Seth Rogen's not a bad dude. I like Seth Rogen.
Oh, he's fine.
Yeah, but he said, "Holy shit! Please don't do this to our movies. Thanks." You know, all this shit. It was kind of like I don't even. It struck me odd that he even cared.
Yeah, I mean, it's another revenue source for more people to buy it. So like,
yeah, like whatever. They're watching a worse. I guess you don't want the stupidest of the stupids to like accidentally buy the clean version and be like, "Wow, knocked up." No one even got knocked up. You know, like I don't know, like is that the concern? And they just the story's so chopped up doesn't make any sense.
It's like the moment, like the scene right before they have sex, right? Like it cuts, and then it just goes to like a Disney version of like a stork dropping off a baby, and then it cuts right back and the baby's born.
See, even that could be good if you went back and made them G-rated, but like comedically, that'd be actually kind of funny.
It would be kind of funny.
All right, on to the gaming news. I know E3 is happening this week, so we're not going to be talking about any predictions for E3 stuff because you're going to know by the time you hear it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about the stuff that's probably not going to appear, but it's just fucking weird.
I can do. I can predict that there's E3.
Whoa. You guys hear that? Mike's on a hot spell. Okay, so this one is a very odd story. Game Informer, you probably know them from GameStop and EB employees trying to push the magazine on you whenever you buy something there. But Game Informer are good people. Like I like their podcast, and they put out a good magazine.
Well, they're good, dude. They got lots of good news.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to hate on them, but that's probably maybe how you know them. On their website, they made a random page that was titled "Bully 2: Kevin's Back, Jack," and obviously the internet found it because the internet finds everything, and everyone immediately was like, "Oh my god, Bully 2 is happening! It's right around E3 time.
Yeah.
It's prime to be announced." Although Kevin's Back, Jack makes no fucking sense. There was no one named Kevin in the first game.
Or Jack.
There was a lawyer named Jack Thompson who didn't want this game to be made. That maybe that's it. Who fucking knows, right? It's a really weird subtitle.
Yeah.
And then they just tweeted, "You might be seeing reports that we reported Bully 2 exists. This is an error. We have not heard anything about a sequel to Bully." And then that's all they said, and that's it. But this is such a weird thing to. If you're doing a test page or if you're fucking with your website, usually you just put test page or. You don't type a whole thing.
Yeah, but if you're bored and you're sitting there, like, I mean, the amount of devs that make their, like, functions weird names.
Sure, but to diffuse the situation completely, because now it's on this, there's a huge conspiracy theory. People are fucking drawing threads, like, in 7.
Yeah.
Like, what is this happening? Like, just to diffuse it, be like, yeah, our fucking intern just put it in there, like, as a joke.
That's
when we were making him create a test page, he was learning the website, and he put that in. Like, that's all it was. Say that. Don't say, like, this vague answer, and then because people are still going to run with it, and they continue to.
Yeah.
But it is a weird thing to do because when I'm doing stuff, I usually just put in test title or test or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it could just been a new person who put something in and thought like, hey, I'm working on like the in Game Informer thing. I'm a gamer guy now, and I'm just gonna put this title.
Dino Crisis 4.
Yeah, just all that, and just think it was fun.
So yeah, I believe it most likely is something like that.
I've had so many times where devs made functions in their code and then they forgot what they named it. And like is so deep down, and there's even threads and collections of them into the code that they just get lost, and then eventually at some point you're working and so you pull it up and then suddenly it's like anal ass rape function into anal ass butt, and you're like what is this?
Why did you do this?
Why did you do this? He was like that was like the 200th function I wrote. I'm sorry, you can rename it. Like it happens. I used to in animation. We used to put like ridiculous things into animation. I used to put a giant long tittied old rabbit lady into a show.
Sure. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
It's just,
and we got caught, but it was in the show, and everyone wonders why there's an old rabbit lady with long titties that drag literally 8 feet behind her.
Also, yeah, maybe someone's super aware of what they're doing. They knew the internet would find it, and they just wanted to, kind of do a troll. Maybe.
Also, if you think about the leak side of things, too, before E3 and even before any show, what was the Final Fantasy one? Like, there was a huge... We were reported on at the time. There was, like, a big leak on Final Fantasy, and it just turned out that it was all true, and it was, like, 2 days before they even got to... They were going to...
Was it the remake news? The remake news leaked, like, the day before.
Yeah.
So it could have been that.
I think. Oh yeah, that was it. Oh no, you know what it was? It was all of the information that was going to be in the Final Fantasy special show, the Kingsglaive show that they did.
Oh right,
and every single thing was done by the magazine the day before, and they're like, well, here's the news you read in the thing that came out the day before.
Yeah. Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, so it could be.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just so random. But like, also Kevin's Backjack makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. As
a title. But it makes it all the more weird. I just want to know who made it and be like, why did you do that? It'd just be like me being like, Devil May Cry 5 Bubble Dogs. And you're like, what?
Maybe it's an inside joke between him and his friends, and then like that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? I just want to know.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got a fucking ransom story. High intensity.
Mm-hmm.
CD Projekt Red. Thieves stole Cyberpunk 2077 documents and asked for a ransom.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, CD Projekt Red is the company that's made the Witcher series, and they have another series that's coming up called Cyberpunk 2077. Is that the current full title? Like, I thought they were...
It's just Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah.
Okay. That's coming up, and they've only ever had a trailer out for it. They've been talking about this game for like, what, fucking 5 years?
Something like it was like 2013 they showed off the first trailer.
Yeah.
And then they just made Witcher 3.
Yeah. And we've been super excited to see it come. They've been talking about now this is the focus for their team from now on. It's going to be on Cyberpunk. So it's definitely in the makes, and then this shit happens.
Yeah, so, someone found some documents. Hacked them, who fucking knows? And demanded a ransom, otherwise they would release it to the public. Mm-hmm. And CD Projekt Red, not giving in to terrorist demands, they released this statement, said, "Dear gamers, an unidentified individual or individuals have just informed us that they are in possession of a few internal files belonging to CD Projekt Red. Among them are documents connected to early designs for the upcoming game Cyberpunk 2077. A demand for the ransom has been made, saying that we should not should we not comply, the files will be released to the general public. We will not be giving in to the demands of the individual or individuals that have contacted us, which might eventually lead to the files being published online. The appropriate legal authorities will be informed about the situation. The documents are old and largely unrepresentative of the current vision of the game. Still, if you're looking forward to playing Cyberpunk 2077, it would be best for you to avoid any information not coming from CD Projekt Red. When the time is right, you will hear about Cyberpunk 2077 from us, officially. CD Projekt Red."
That's
classy.
So pro.
Yeah, super great.
Yeah, well done.
That's all, and that's perfect. All you had to say is like, just so the internet doesn't go wild with shit. There's like, these are old. Yeah. It's unrepresentative of like what the game looks like now. So people
also,
aren't just...
by acting not afraid of the content, where they're like, yeah, if you guys see it, I mean, it's not the end of the universe. We were going to put it in a book, but like, whatever. They're like, but just, if you really want to go spoiler free, because there might be something you can glimpse out of this, then don't look at it. But look if you want to. Like, it just takes the entire flame out of it when they're holding this and they're like, this is the designs, and then they're like, oh, like, it's not worth anything. So really well done for that. The only thing that's getting me is there was another company that got recently ransomed for information, wasn't there?
It was Disney, because Pirate, they started a ransom for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Was that it?
They had the entire movie somehow 2 weeks before it was supposed to come to theaters, and they were trying to like fuck with Disney and be like, pay us money or we'll release it.
But there was another game one too. There's been a few of these recently. I feel like it's a trend. Obviously, no one's given in, and no one's going to ever. But it's definitely become this trend now where people are trying to hold on to this, get this content and try and get it out early. But the nice thing about this is with the companies that got not giving in, they're going to start to realize that this content isn't that valuable. Like, whether or not you steal it and release it 2 weeks ahead of time, they're like, well, we were going to release it, but I'm going to do it earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, well... That's not worth $40 million. So
yeah, exactly, and we don't think we're gonna lose $40 million on this movie because of this. So
you're just generating more income.
And if anything, I would be more, if I was a company and I was making movies, I'd be more concerned about an entire movie leaking in good quality than I would if I was a video game company about like, here's some art assets. I'd be like, go for it, man.
Yeah,
you got them.
Yeah,
you nailed this.
Yep.
Like, great.
Yep.
That it wouldn't matter nearly as much.
I mean, even I guess for gaming, the big one would be getting titles stolen before they're released. So like you're waiting until E3 to announce Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
And then someone comes along and goes, I have official documentation saying this is Last of Us 2.
And we're gonna ruin the surprise.
And we're gonna ruin the surprise. I mean, that would never really truly honestly ruin the surprise because everyone would be like, it's fake. I never believed that Last of Us 2 would ever happen. because that's the gaming world. But nevertheless, that would be more damaging, because then you come to E3 and announce The Last of Us 2, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, he was real. We should ask him to steal more shit." Like, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
But you know, it's not the biggest threat, and I'm happy that CD Projekt Red did this with such wonderful grace.
Absolutely. Next up, some more sales news. Much like Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Horizon Zero Dawn has sold 3.4 million copies.
Which is impressive, apparently.
Yes, and this is as of April 30th, and also 915,000 of these sales were digital, which is great, because I think just a week or two ago we were talking about, like, I don't forget who it was, Capcom or something, or maybe Square, and they were talking about how 20% of this game was, like, you know, digital sales, and they were really impressed by that, and they were like, oh, 20% is actually pretty significant, which means, you know, digital sales are going up. Mm-hmm. And for this one, you know, 3.4, and this is almost a million. They call it 1/3, basically. 1/3 of the sales are digital, which is fucking crazy. Yeah. That's great.
It's funny for me, too, is that with people who are not using it yet, don't understand how much easier it is now. Because, like, back in the day, in the beginning of PS3, when I switched doing fully digital, it used to take 12 hours to get a game downloaded, and then, like...
Yeah, early on in the last generation, it was not great.
Yeah, and, like, 4 hours to get it installed. So it was, like, a day of installation and downloading before I ever even played, when I could have just gone and gotten a disc and just pressed play. But I was stubborn. But...
you know.
Yeah, no. But now, when I... Like, for example, what was the last game we just did? Oh my god. Fuck. The last game that just came out. Mass Effect. I got Mass Effect downloaded in 3 hours, and it just installed while it did that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like... It's so much easier to use, right?
Yeah, it's better now.
Yeah. So, but the 3.4 million, or was it 3.4? It was 3.4.
Yeah, it's 3.4.
That's, like, what's that in comparison to someone else?
So, comparing new IPs, right? Horizon's new IP, brand new, no name recognition. Back in the day, let's bring it back to fucking 2007, I believe it was, when Uncharted first came out. Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Brand new IP. As of today... Well, 29th of April. As of 29th of April, it has sold 4.93 million units. Yeah. And that's not including the Nathan Drake collection or anything like that. This is just straight up on the PS3. Yeah. It sold 4.93 million. And that's to date. You know, it's all the copies. That's not just within the first, what is it, for Horizon? 3 months now?
It's been almost 3, yeah.
3, 4. So doing 3.4 is, like, pretty impressive for a new IP.
It's really impressive.
You know, because I'm sure Uncharted Drake's Fortune did not sell this 4.93 million, like, immediately.
I mean, there's also being indicative of the new market, though, right? Because, like, as gaming happened since that point, there's more gamers, more systems, and more people buying today than there were in 2007. So it's a little bit more indicative of, like, the fact that there's a larger market base today. However, to sell that many at all, that is comparison to others... games in the first 3 months is extraordinary.
For sure. Like, even as of now, Uncharted 4 has sold 9.12 million. Yeah. We're really good. That's a really good number.
That's a high number. And that's only been out for...
A little less than a year, probably?
Less than a year. Yeah. So, I mean, like, they're already doing 1/3, of Uncharted 4, one of the largest series on the planet, in the first 3 months with an unknown IP that just came out 2 months ago. Yeah. You know, like, that's significant. That's significant.
Like, we're getting a sequel for Horizon. Yeah. I mean, we already reported on that story where they said, like, we're hiring people who are good at animal animations. And you're like, you don't think we know that's what that's for?
Yeah.
Come on, bish.
That's years away, but I'm more excited to try and get my hand on some DLC, hopefully at E3.
I think we'll probably see that. Yeah. All right, next up, the story behind Mass Effect Andromeda's troubled 5-year development. This is a long article at Kotaku. We're not going to talk about the entire thing.
But I can sum it up right now.
Sure. I was just going to say, Google Kotaku story troubled 5-year development. Yes. Like, go read it if you're interested in this kind of thing.
It actually is a really great article. I read the whole thing after you posted it up, and I read through the whole thing. It's really well done, and I like the description of it. But to sum the whole thing up, it's BioWare Montreal's fault. That's what it is.
It seems like a lot of mismanagement, honestly. Like, there seems to be a lot of, like, they kept moving to different phases without having confirmed anything, you know, and without really being sure on what exactly they were making. And they changed from 3DS Max to Maya, back to 3DS Max, shit like that, right? And they hired this studio to do facial animations that were great, beautiful animations, and then they were like, how do we implement these? Like it was shit like that where it was like, oh,
Yeah.
like there must have been just some upper level like management who was like just not having the workflow pipeline wasn't going right.
No, the workflow pipeline was definitely broken because originally, because now that all the information's out, originally the game was at Mass Effect or BioWare Edmonton, which I didn't know was considered the main headquarters.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was the main headquarters.
It was the first one, so it's like the
Okay.
main because there's Edmonton, Montreal, and Austin.
Yeah, I didn't think it was the main. But anyways, I thought Austin was the main. But I thought it was originally at Edmonton, and then they moved it over to Montreal. But Montreal was always a backup studio. It was just like, here, do the DLCs, do the expansions, do the extras.
Yeah, they did like a bunch of Mass Effect 3 DLC.
And then they just tossed all that stuff in, and then they got handed the whole game. And it was a smaller studio, so they weren't really the right ones to hand it to. So there's a mismanagement there. There was the scope idea, because you remember when we first started talking about the game, and I remember after I read this article, I was like, oh yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda is supposed to be like hundreds of worlds to go visit, and you can land on all of them and do all this stuff on each one. And we were like, oh, that sounds really interesting, but do we want that?
Yeah.
Like they thought the same thing. They're like, oh shit, how do we tell a story on 100 planets?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
every planet you land on, they're like, the story goes. Like every time you land, one person says one word. Like you can't really do it. So like there was a lot of issues in the beginning of just scope and management.
Like it seems so crazy. Like the biggest thing from this article was like most of Mass Effect Andromeda's development was done in the last 18 months, which was the last year and a half of development, and it was in development for 5 years, technically. Yeah. So yeah, there's just a lot of shit.
Because like in the first year, it would have been built around some sort of procedural generated engine, and trying to figure out how to make that work inside the story, build design around all of that. Then they're like, okay, we can't do this. The technology's too big. We need to make a game faster than later. So we're going to toss this out. So there's probably been a lot inside that 5-year dev cycle that was just like, toss.
Well, it seemed, but then it seemed like I can almost like see it in my head. I've been on projects where like no one really understood what they were doing, but we kept going forward without actually like saying like solidly like, yes, we're all doing this, or like this is the goal. It seemed like they went from pre-production to production without being like, are we still doing the whole open world? Okay, I'll model an Asari. Like,
Well, it's sad that I went through this, and the worst part about it, though, and the one thing I didn't want to have happen with the whole Mass Effect Andromeda like debacle was having it damage the franchise, and it has. There's a chance of us not seeing it for a very long time.
Yeah, it's that. I think Mass Effect fan base has such a fervor. I honestly don't even think it'll matter really in the long run. It sucks that this happened, but I think we're still going to be there. Like in 3 years when we're still doing this podcast, and they're finally like, Mass Effect, whatever.
Yeah.
And we're still going to lose our shit and start jerking off.
No, it's the thing. But I wonder if it means that we won't see a Mass Effect for like 8 years.
Yeah, it's potentially like how long we're not going to see it for, right?
And that's
like,
the problem, right? Because like
and again, it was super surprising to me that they literally said like, after 2 months of the game being out, they're like, it's probably the series is going on hiatus, and you're just like, really? Like no one says that. No one really comes out and says like, you're not going to see this for a while. They just kind of like let it die.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's weird, and it's
like Splinter Cell has been around for a while, and maybe we're getting a reboot at E3. We don't know, but like they never said like, Splinter Cell, you're not seeing that for 6 years.
I think BioWare's always been really bad at handling the public side of things. Because when the Mass Effect 3 ending happened, and everyone's like, that ending sucked, they should have just been like, oh, we're sorry you didn't like the ending, but we really worked hard on it to make it really great for you guys, and that's about all I would ever say. Instead, they're like, oh, sorry, we'll patch in the alternate ending, and we should never have done this. And then there were dev problems, and the story guy left, and like it was just like, why are you telling us this shit? You should never have apologized. You should have been like, it's actually great, guys, if you think about it. Because 2 years later down the road, everyone's like, the ending wasn't great, but they're the greatest games that were ever made. Like we don't give a shit about the ending of Mass Effect 3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people still are fucking way too upset about it, but like it's fine.
Yeah.
All you can hope for is better in the future.
What was the original thing behind? Because like I played Mass Effect about 1.5 years after everyone had been playing Mass Effect all the way to 3.
Yeah.
And then I got to the ending. Yeah. I knew that something bad was going to happen. I actually didn't know Shepard was supposed to die at the end. Is that what made everyone angry?
No. It was just the culmination of like, we went through 3 fucking games, right?
Yeah.
All these choices. And nothing mattered. It was the same ending. It was just colored red, green, or blue.
Oh.
That's really what it was. It was it's like the game's kind of a diamond shape, right? You start out at this point in a diamond, and in Mass Effect 1, you just start branching out. In Mass Effect 2, the widest part of the diamond, you just have all these options, and you're like, this is gonna fucking matter. This is crazy. I'm making choices in a game that's not even out yet. It's not even been developed yet. This is fucking dope. This is gonna be random. This is gonna fucking matter. And it all has to go back into this point and funnel because there's no way they can account for every single decision you fucking made in these games. Which is, I understand the workflow like mentality of that, but it just ended up being like you made one ending and like there's slightly different cutscenes. Not even slightly. Like in one they're kind of robots. You know, that's basically what it was. That's why the ending was so disappointing. And originally, when I assume this wasn't the case when you played it, there was no closure for any of the other characters. Like you didn't know what happened to Garrus, Tally, no one. You just had no idea. I think you got like a vignette or something, like a little text box that was like, Garrus died back on the way to his home planet, or like whatever it was.
Well, there was story stuff that it did, like that happened afterwards.
And like when you originally played it, you did not get that either. You just were Shepard. You walked towards the red light or whatever light you picked. You played a cutscene and it was like, you're done.
Yeah. See, that's the only thing that got me about it that was a little bit upsetting for me was not that, like, I had those 3 choices. I was fine with that. I'm like, all right, it has to boil down to something. But I thought at the end, all my choices, at the very least, they could have done something like they did at the beginning of Mass Effect 3, where, like, if you didn't play Mass Effect 2 or lost your save data, like I did, where they just summarize the story in, like, a bunch of scenes and then let you select, you know, like, did you do this or did you do that? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right? Instead, at the end, just, like, give me some cutscenes of being like, by the way, when you went and actually killed the Shadow Broker because you did that, you know, crime dropped. You know,
something, right? Just something that made you feel like your choice mattered. The illusion of choice even would have been fine in the moment, you know?
Yeah.
But it was literally just like when people found out that those endings were just basically 3 different skins, basically. Yeah. Like, I was frustrated by it too. I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, it did nothing really. It would have ended the same for everyone, no matter what choice you made, you know?
I don't think I ever had expected that all my choices would have made any sort of massive impact on the ending.
I wanted the endings to be, even if there was only still 3 endings, I wanted them to be different. I didn't want to just walk into a light on the... It's literally just like a fucking ramp that splits. And just like, walk into the blue, green, or red one, man. Like, you're like, okay. And then you Google the other 2 cutscenes and you're like, that's what I just watched. I see. Yeah, you know, it's that thing. I would have, you know, it would have been cool if there was one where, you know, you're like, kill all the Reapers, and like, I don't know, it just looks different. Even if it's like, even if you walked in the light, Shepard like runs into a squid and like Super Saiyans it or something. I don't know. Speaking of Super Saiyans, last story on the docket. Arc System Works, the guys behind Guilty Gear Xrd, Blaze Blue, and Persona 4 Arena are making a Dragon Ball fighting game. It's going to look fucking beautiful.
Which is super exciting for Cal, because he's a super fighting game fanatic. But these games are really, really beautiful, and the incredible technical work they do to make 2D look 3D.
Or 3D look 2D.
3D look 2D. Yeah, sorry. That's what I mean. But the weird merger between the two, it's like, you know, you play in this 2D scope and then it just rotates around and it turns out it all is 3D. However they've accomplished that on the technical side, it's a beautiful piece of work, and it's just always a pleasure to watch.
It is. They're gorgeous games. I love Dragon Ball. This is already a good E3 dream come true for me. And after the break, we're going to be talking about reining creators in. Should we do it? Should we not? What a creators fuck up. All that good shit.
All that good shit.
So stay tuned.
Good shit.
Welcome back to the Pens and Pixels second segment, wherein we talk about Dragon Ball Z!
No.
All your favorite Dragon Ball Z characters.
No.
Mike, who's yours?
None.
Oh, I love Boo, I love Tien, I love Krill. No.
No Dragon Ball. We're going to be talking about unrestrained directors and creators and content, but we're going to do film content since this isn't really a thing in gaming yet. The only really unrestrained directors in gaming is Hideo Kojima and my god from Last of Us, Neil Druckmann.
Yeah.
Like, those are the only two I know who are on unfettered control. Maybe some of the Final Fantasy guys, actually.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing. Like, directors still haven't built their name up like they do in movies for gaming. Like, we have those, and we can barely name off a few of the others. You know, so it doesn't really count. So we're going to be focusing in on TV and movies. And so what we mean by this is when a creator goes out into the world and starts creating, usually their first creations are heralded as great stuff if they do great work. And everyone's like, what amazing talent they have. And then they get unrestrained. They're like, you must have great power and ability to create great content. And then they get left alone. and horrible things happen.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes you see this narrative in the media presented as like, look, you finally gave someone creative control. Like they always frame it like it's never happened before.
Yeah.
And like we got this awesome thing like Stranger Things and blah blah. But no one ever talks about the times when maybe someone, like had a boss and the boss actually made the right decision. Mm-hmm. Like someone behind the scenes in Suicide Squad or something, and they were like, this is a mess. You should at least do this to make it better. Someone was trying to make that movie better actively behind the scenes, probably.
But it's more interesting now today because there's a new venue for creators. That's be Netflix. You can get the option of actually running your own show and having pretty much free reign. Netflix is very big on like have the money, you take your creative power and your idea and go do your thing, right? And have all the power to control yourself. But there's a part to it where I'm like, isn't there a fear to having that happen? Because we can get bad stuff. So the most largest one out there ever in examples is Star Wars with George Lucas. The first 3 Star Wars films were held back by budget, timing, time period for like technology, and even the studios that were making it were like, I've never heard of a movie about spaceships before. Like, this has never happened. I don't know if I can give you free reign. Here's all these people, and there's an actual group of people with names that you can find out, like the 7 or 6 people who were assigned to basically maintain George Lucas.
Apparently there were a lot of people at the time telling him no, right? A lot of things? Yeah.
On a lot of things. And it made 3 of the greatest movies ever because his core ideas were powerful stuff. But then he goes off and they're like, all right, well, you're George Lucas. You own all things Star Wars, so you can make the first 3 movies. And he fucks us so hard that we can't walk straight for about 10 years until finally we got a replacement.
Yeah, we got Jar Jar Binks. We got that thing with the nose, the pod racing.
Yeah.
Annie! Whatever he does.
We got the weird aliens on the ship of the bridge that like had, for some reason, things implanted on their face. We're like, what the fuck's up with your face?
I'm not sure what that reference is. We got Darth Maul. He seems
okay.
cool.
He was the only good thing that came out of that. But then you've got, like, frog hopping Yoda and then fighting an old man.
Yeah, so I remember a lot of... Sorry, I just want to talk about this for a second. Yeah. I remember a lot of people... Again, me not being a Star Wars guy, didn't watch it at the time. Still haven't watched it, to be honest. Yeah. But I know that Yoda was flipping around, fighting with lightsabers and stuff. And a lot of people were disappointed in that. Like, they didn't want to see this Muppet flipping around, or whatever. Is that how you feel? I didn't know... I don't know what people want, in my head when they hear Yoda fighting.
I didn't get that, because, like, so you have the old Yoda you had that was, like, maybe 30 or 40 years later down the road, or whatever the fucking time period is. I don't know. 10 years. Who cares? Older and further on down the road, and this old wise master, right? So when he first shows up in that fight, he's, like, hovering and, like, fighting in the Force, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's the way.
Yeah.
But when he pulls out his lightsaber, you're not expecting him to suddenly just start swinging and flailing, right? You expect him to be like a samurai, like a quick stroke, and it would be done. Or even never even having to pull out the lightsaber and just literally grabbing the guy and slamming him against the wall. And
only Force using and stuff? Yeah.
Like a grand master who never even needs to pull out his weapon. And if he does, it's a simple, quick stroke and the show's over. That was what I was expecting, but I think that'd be anticlimactic. So when I saw him flipping around, I was, one, as a concept artist, really thought it was cool, because what would this little guy do in comparison to a universe of people who are all larger than him? He would get really agilic and bounce around and like totally start...
Be hard to hit, right?
Yeah, and he would like flail his sword in like a cool way so he could keep making as many strikes as possible.
Yeah.
I thought that was neat. But I also do get that it basically made him into this little frogman jumping around with a sword, which is a little funny. So I get both sides.
Yeah, I remember hearing that complaint, and I was like, oh, interesting. I was like, I don't know what they wanted, but
yeah,
what I envisioned in my head was just they wanted Yoda sitting there, and like he was using this lightsaber, but with the Force, so he was just like conducting almost. He was
that'd be
la 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 la. He's just like
that would be fucking dumb.
Slicing people like up, but he's just like looking at his nails, fucking doing it.
Well, then even then, it just makes him like too far detached. That would have been just like nope. But yeah, so that's an example of a director being completely removed, which we don't, or sorry, being completely untethered, and we don't really want that to happen. And this conversation came up in my head because we all know that Invader Zim is going to be coming back for a movie, and Jonah Vasquez is one of the greatest creators of illustrated and animated content I can think of. Brilliant, extraordinary work from his comic books to Invader Zim. And now he's coming back and he's doing it on Netflix, which means he's going to finally be able to do it unrestrained from Nickelodeon, who restrained him heavily during the show. And I've had debates whatever point of view you're going to take.
You know, point of view I'm taking.
I know what point of view Cal's taking, whether or not that's a good or a bad thing. So we thought we'd go down and break down those people who are who have done great work, and have they done great work, and what did they do, and then did they become unrestrained beforehand? And one of the best examples I can think of those who don't need a restrainment is directors like Steven Spielberg. Actually, what was his last film that kind of sucked, didn't it? J.J. Abrams. He did that Super 8. Yeah,
He wasn't part of that.
Spielberg?
No, that was all J.J. Abrams.
I thought Spielberg
might have produced it, but yeah, it was like supposed to be in the vein of Spielberg, which was why it was so Spielbergian. I believe. I'm fairly certain.
Okay. Well, either way, Steven Spielberg really hasn't horribly mucked up a movie, and I think he's on Ready Player One right now, which makes me just so excited because that's my favorite book of all time.
That's the thing. Also, when you're hearing these names on this list, someone might have a blunder. One movie or one or two movies that aren't great does not a bad director make.
No,
it's when you see a pattern of they've been unleashed and they're just not great anymore.
They just haven't seemed to pick themselves back up after they got unleashed. Christopher Nolan, Knew You Say More, Batman, Inception, etc. The list goes on.
Memento.
Yeah, Robert Zemeckis is another great one. So those are examples of those who can get unleashed and still maintain. But to those who can't, we've got first.
And I want to put a disclaimer up. We are going to be hating a little bit on Zack Snyder's work, but we wish him well with the passing of his daughter.
Oh yes, of course.
No ill wishes towards the man himself.
No.
This is purely a critique of his work. We're not attacking him at all.
Like Cal could have cancer, and I would still tell him his work sucks.
Yeah, exactly. But he wouldn't be like, "Ha, you're dying."
Yeah, your cancer is why you suck.
Yeah. No, you just suck because of the person you are.
Your imagination and brain creates trash.
None of this, baby. None of this is good.
None of this. None of this.
All right, Zack Snyder. When he first came out, it was 300, which and he was a new director.
Was Dawn of the Dead first?
Was Dawn of the Dead first?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love that. I love Dawn of the Dead.
It's
That's
amazing.
a great movie.
Great movie.
Yeah, fuck, I love Dawn of the Dead. Jesus Christ, I watched that DVD probably 100 times or something. Okay, Dawn of the Dead, great work, and it was a remake, and it was actually. I was gonna make the argument that when he did 300, he had to stay so he stayed so close to the comic script. There was just no room for him to fuck up. He basically took it was the comic was a storyboard for him. He was like,
but we've seen directors take over franchises like books and comic books and other stories, and then they're just like, I'm doing it my way because I'm a director, and you're like, but the content is right. Where are you going?
Yeah, we just want a vessel to put that on screen. Yeah. We don't need your flare.
No, we don't need your lens flares. I still love JJ. But yeah, so he did Dawn of the Dead first, and then was a great movie. Then he did 300, which was... and the thing is, too, I'm sure in his direction there was a lot of the art style and cinematics.
That's the thing. Zack Snyder he's great at visuals. If we can say nothing else positive about him, he has great visuals. Even something like Sucker Punch, where it just seems like that was the first time he became untethered, is, I think, a visual feast of a movie.
Even Watchmen. Some people can trade Watchmen, but I still think it was excellently done for what the comics were.
I
enjoyed it. But visually, I loved Watchmen. I loved all the visuals in Watchmen. It was gorgeous. Even Naked Blue Dong. He did that. He actually put Naked Blue Dong on screen.
Good.
Good for you. So, he had this potential, and everyone's like, oh, the throne of Zack Snyder. And then we got Sucker Punch, which, I have to say, it has a 50-50 split. There's a hard fan base for Sucker Punch.
Honestly, I'm more on the side of, I would say, fan than not fan. But,
I was a fan for, the first quarter, and then I just...
I don't think it's it's no Batman vs Superman, you know what I mean? It's not.
No, but it's the slope down. So if you have a chart and the slope's at the top, and he hit the top when he did Watchmen or 300, but really whatever. His slope down was Sucker Punch.
For sure, it's the beginning of the end type thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the spiral towards death happened further as we go along.
So we go Man of Steel again. Not a bad movie. I don't think. I think some fundamental misunderstandings of the character.
Yes.
But in my head, the way I know they didn't do this now, in my head I remember justifying it at the time. I was like, okay, Superman destroyed a city. Mm-hmm. Probably killed a lot of people. I was like, this is the moment for Superman. This is his first time fighting a someone who could fight back, basically. He was out of control. I get it, right? Like, he was just trying to end Zod, fight him. I was like, this will be the moment for Superman where I was like, he'll not let that happen again. He will not destroy anything. Everything will be fine. And, like, this is his learning moment. Yeah. And then it just kind of didn't happen.
No.
But I thought that was, like, what they were going for.
No.
It was not.
But this is the thing. Like, there was a feeling for his direction and what was going on with that film. It felt like, Snyder just kind of took off on his own and just started to direct this into where he thought, he's like, all right, within this second half, I want it to be a battle that is unlike any other. And I guarantee you could probably find that in, like, the fucking show notes of someone, like, writing the notes where the discussions were at a meeting, going, like, I want this battle that destroys a whole city while they smash
They're flying through cities.
Yeah.
They're flying,
I want this, like, epic visual, and he's big on visuals.
Skyscrapers are breaking, and there's debris, and
and he's huge on the visual aspect of everything, so he's probably describing it all out, being like, this shot, that shot, explosions.
You know what I really want to give him props for, though, actually, in Man of Steel, particularly? The first battle with the other Kryptonians, with the female one, that was, like, the best, in my mind, like, representation of Dragon Ball Z fighting that I've ever seen. She was very quickly doing that, like, instant transmission, like, just kind of around, just, like, big hit, go flying, like, and she was just, like, moving very quickly, and it gave you a sense of speed. Like, it was really cool. It made me immediately think of Dragon Ball.
Okay. I mean, I can totally see that and respect it. I've actually found that was a really jittery scene.
I fucking love that. That's, like, my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah. But, you know...
well, action scene, I guess.
Action scene, yeah. But... I thought everything was kind of jittery, and then from that point on, it just felt like it was a visual fest and a lot of explosions, and then we culminate into what everyone else seemed to get pissed off was him killing Zod, and then everyone's like, Superman doesn't kill people, and I'm like, go 2 pages back? Like, like he's killed a few people.
Again, I thought that would be a learning moment for him, right? I thought that would be the, like, I don't want to kill again after that. I don't want it to get this far after this. I'll stop things before they get this bad. Really thought that was going to be the character arc.
Yeah, he kind of just kept on being like, you know what, I'll kill Batman too.
Yeah. Fuck him. I can be convinced really easily that this is the okay thing to do. But yeah, again, I don't know how much Snyder had with developing the character. I mean, he's the director, I assume quite a bit. Yeah. But, you know, there are things that, even in the moment, it seems like a small thing, but for Superman as a character, Superman's a Boy Scout. Yeah. He's like, good old American boy. He's supposed to be a nice man. Like, and it's a funny scene, but there's a guy in a bar, like, talking down to him, and then the guy comes out of the bar later, and Superman has tied his, like, truck around a pole. Yeah. And it's completely undrivable. This guy has to get, like, insurance now. Has no way home. It's like, Superman's not that petty. No. You know? That's a fundamental misunderstanding. It's just a small thing. It's supposed to be a joke scene where it's a little levity in the movie, and I get that. But when you think back on it, you're like, that's not Superman as character.
No, and that's the thing. I feel like Snyder kept directing him and being like, okay, we got to get your bottled anger and frustration about you being alone on this planet. Which I'm like, but that's not his motivation. He actually doesn't feel alone. He feels like he needs to protect and save us and be our protector. And he loves this planet. His parents have taught him to care, right? And I like this the most, and everyone hates this movie with fiery passion, and it's not a good movie, but for the Superman Returns film, when Superman catches the plane and then drops it down and gets in and gives them all a lecture about how flight is still the safest mode of travel, I was like in the theater like, yes!
That's Superman.
That's Superman. He's a Boy Scout. He's going to sit down and calm everyone and give them a literal like flight safety manual. Like, that is Superman. He is a nerdy, like, almost completely oblivious Boy Scout who doesn't understand being pure goodness is actually annoying.
There's some great panel in the comics where, like, it's like fucking Nightwing and Superman, and then and they're in a park talking, and then a cop comes by and he's like, shit, like, park can't get much safer with you two in here. And Superman's like, you mean with us three here? Like, he's like giving this cop the same respect as like the Boy Wonder and the Man of Steel, you know? Like, it's a small thing, but, like, that's Superman.
Yeah. And it's those attitudes that were, like, he spends most of his time in the last 2 films that Snyder did just being... Moping, angry, bottled.
And it's not even cool brooding. Like, that was the thing. It was just so, like...
And it was more showing off. Like, even, like, if he's directing him and he's like, okay, facial features like this, I want an attitude like this from you. And he's like, okay, you're going to come floating down. And instead of, like, having him float down and look concerned and save someone, instead he kept floating down with scowls on his face. And they're all like, oh, he's a god. And he's just coming down like, I accept this.
He wasn't, like, he didn't seem like he was enjoying saving people.
No.
His mom told him, you don't owe this world anything, which is not true.
Yeah. You're like, your superpowers are kind of from... Anyways.
And if he'd fought that a little, it would have been a little Supermanish, but like he was like, yeah.
No. So I feel like Zack Snyder took off in a different direction, feeling like he got into his own power in his own head, and he got stuck into his visual world and lost the characters.
Yeah, it's almost like he designed around set pieces, right?
Yeah.
And then he built a story around it or something.
Yeah, exactly, in the opposite. So that's a sense of where...
It's weird, too, because you'd almost think that, like, once he was given a... like, you think, okay, you remade Dawn of the Dead, great, that's real cool. Oh, you did 300, you copied a comic book, fine. You're taking on Superman, one of the biggest comic characters of all time. We're going to have you on a leash. Like, you need to run everything by us, make sure everything's okay, and instead what happened... Well, DC had to approve it, obviously, at some point, but like...
Or even run it by other people, because J.J. Abrams was given free reign for Star Trek, right? And he did. He revamped the entire universe. He wiped out the timeline of what everyone knew. And I mean, now they're running it as like there's two congruent timelines.
What if Sherlock was Khan? Like, no!
Yeah. But that's the thing. And he took over the first one and made a masterpiece of a Star Trek film, but he never watched a single episode of Star Trek at that point. But he kept passing everything he did by people who knew Star Trek and going like, is this Star Trek enough? Would this fit to the film? Like, and like everyone was like, yeah, this would be great if you did this, but don't do that.
It's something we always talk about. I feel like we're lingering on Zack Snyder too long, but whatever. It's something we've talked about before, where we've said like we're all open for new takes on things.
Yeah.
But there needs to be like some sort of understanding of the character there still. Like you don't get alternate versions of like the Joker where he's like a lion man or something. You know, something that's like completely wild and out there.
Also,
as
a creator, I wonder if you and I ever got super popular as artists to like the level of like the top concept artist, would we start thinking that our ideas are just always pure gold? Because I make anything and I pass it around to everyone. I'm going, what's going on? I need critique and feedback, right? And every artist I know, all the way up to like the biggest ones I know personally, like Jeff Isherwood, etc., they all still sit back and go, I don't really know about my work yet. I was thinking about this one. I don't know. Like we kind of like self-hate a little bit too much, and then we like critique ourselves and pass it around a group, right? J.J. Abrams did that with Star Trek and other examples, but it feels like with these guys, they just come up and they're like, my idea is best. Like they get to that point where they don't understand. Like, do they actually think that they don't need to peer review their work?
What is it? Or is everyone just telling them it's great?
Because with George Lucas, that's what happened. With the first movie, like Star Wars 1, not the first Star Wars movie ever, but Star Wars 1, there is film of him doing his first screening where he ignored everybody, and he's like, wow, I should have listened. Like, literally recorded that word, him saying, like, wow, I should have listened to you guys. Like, yeah, you know. So, anyways.
All right, let's move on to another man.
Yeah.
A man who likes his explosions, likes his action. You already know who it is.
Who
it's Michael fucking Bay, dog.
Michael Bay explosions.
So Michael Bay, he's made some good films.
He was a classic creator of great action films, and I always used to love that. Like I loved The Rock as a kid. I used to love watching that. Sean
Rock's
Connery's
great. Bad Boys great.
Bad Boys is great. Armageddon's good. I think it also lost...
It's not my jam, personally. I know people love it.
No, but it was good. It was just after it started playing on every cable network about 4 times in a row, you were like, fuck this movie, and I hate that Aerosmith song so much.
Yeah, well, and I mean, now, you'll know that Michael Bay is infamous for the Transformers movies.
Yes.
And,
But it wasn't... Was that his start in him breaking down... Well, he did Pearl Harbor first, which was awful. Before...
I never watched that one.
It was awful. But again, it was just like weird choices. Michael Bay's kind of always known for trying to pick weird actors, because like with Pearl Harbor, he grabbed Cuba Gooding Jr. as the main character.
That is a weird choice.
It is a weird choice, right? But he's always done that, because like even grabbing Sean Connery and the Bees...
Nicolas
Cage, and sticking them into a film. Like that's not a pairing you sit back and go, those two work well together.
Nicolas Cage playing off anybody, I think, is kind of funny.
It's true.
Maybe not for the intended, maybe you're not doing comedy, but it's funny.
Yeah. But, well, how about Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck? Like,
oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not a good idea.
No, and they did it for Armageddon.
Yeah.
So he's always been putting together mismatched characters.
Shia LaBeouf. I never would have looked at the kid from Even Stevens and been like, that's my action star. You need a hot girl in the film. Megan Fox makes sense. That's fine.
We'll give him credit for some vision and being like, I'll take my chances on you. I bet you're awesome.
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf, you're the next shining star. And now Shia LaBeouf is fucking crazy. Doing laps around Amsterdam, talking about fucking weed and shit.
Yeah.
Great, cool, man. That's fine.
But
he's like, I'm protesting. You're like, what are you doing? What are you protesting, man?
Just thinking about Shia LaBeouf just makes you laugh.
I'm Shia LaBeouf. I'm going to watch all my films and live stream it.
Yeah.
Here's me crying at my own films.
Let me go wearing a bag on my head.
Yeah, he's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
But then he's advanced along and hit Bad Boys 2, which was significantly worse than...
Bad Boys 2 is just too long. It is just too long. It needs to be... He needs an editor, really. Yeah, I think the movie could have been, like, as good as the first one if they'd just been, like, take out several of these parts.
But that's the start of the first drop, right? They all gave
Michael For sure, yeah.
Bay his control, and suddenly he stopped listening to his editor. The editor's like, no, we're going to cut... Where is he going? He's still got the film in his hands. Someone get it away from him.
This took a long time. We're not cutting any of this.
He's like, I'm the editor. I'm supposed to edit stuff, but I've just sat and watched your movie. I didn't cut anything.
Yeah, wasn't it great?
So, like, that's the first slide down. Then, oh god, The Island. Oh.
I watched The Island. I don't remember The Island. I'm not even gonna.
Don't.
I can't front about anything with The Island.
Let's not hit The Island because I could talk about that as a bad movie for a long time. But notoriously known to everyone is the man of explosions. He started off as a Transformers movie. I kind of liked the first Transformers film.
Yeah, it was entertaining enough.
I thought it was cute and could have gone somewhere. But then ever since then, it has turned into, like, why did he start thinking maybe he was funnier? Like, did he go back and like, I made Bad Boys. There were good jokes in that. You didn't write it, but there's good jokes.
Yeah, like yeah, it's true. He has a lot of weird, like, juvenile humor.
Yeah, like one of the giant Transformers has two giant pair of metal balls.
Yeah.
That the two smack-talking only black robots decide to go attack.
Yep.
Like, that's anyways, I'm not even gonna get into that.
The Transformers urinate, they open their valve on their dick hole. Like, yeah, there's this weird, like, juvenile element, but which, like, you know, maybe is the intended audience, like, preteen, adolescent area, like, maybe that makes sense to inject that. But you're right, I get the sense that Michael Bay is like, I'm a fucking funny dude.
Yeah.
I should be Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Like, you know, or things like...
But that's the thing, it feels weird interjected because the rest of the film doesn't play to that tone at all. Just periodically, the Transformers would come up and be smack-talking or stupid and urinate or have giant metal testicles or, like, the list goes on, right? It's suddenly these weird cuts between two bits, which feels like the fight between, like, Michael Bay as an action director, and he's taking on all these action movies, but then he also, I think he wants to do a comedy.
Maybe, yeah. And, like, I don't want to judge him too harshly. I haven't seen the Transformers movie since probably the third one. I don't know what they're at now, 5 or 6.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
The action is so up and down in those movies, and, like, and mostly in a way that's, like, you know, visually it's hard to tell what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of spinning metal.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly, right? It's spinning metal, you can't tell who's hitting who, and you're like, what is happening in this scene? But then you get other scenes that are, like, way clearer, and you're, like, able to tell what's happening. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool. Yeah. But, like, it doesn't work when it's that way. Especially when we have things now like John Wick where you're like, I see everything, you know?
It's hard to make fun of him with this stuff, though, too, because I always wonder if it was maybe like a mental like degradation on his part.
I don't think so.
No, because I think, and I mean that in that I think he got bored and he got tired of his films, because what did Michael Bay start doing? He started going back to every trope. Every Transformers movie or any movie he had scene of a helicarrier with jets taking off, American flag flap moment of military army. One of the Transformers movies actually I think has 10 minutes of just army people preparing to send planes into the air, all prepping up to this one scene where they launch a single missile to blow up one Transformer. You know, like, there's so much of that, but he uses it over and over and over again in every one of his films. He's just like, I know this works, it looks cool, let's go to a helicarrier and film some stuff.
He's just, I don't want to say lazy, but he's leaning too much on tropes that he's already
But it didn't feel like the effort faded. He was just like, I really don't care, I've just been hired, I need to get paid to do this, blah, 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 you know.
I mean, how can you have a vision for the 5th Transformers movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not everyone, I mean, just for him, right? Like, that's...
No, you're right, but I feel like
if there was some mega fan of the franchise, I'm sure, you know. Like, if I wasn't put in charge of Ninja Turtles, I'd be like, I have 13 movies planned out.
But still, I mean, like, other people take on longer running series for longer time. So the guy who did, Stephen Moffat, who did Doctor Who.
No, right,
He's been on it for like 12 seasons, you know? And he I don't even think he really wanted to stop. He was just more just like, I think I'm tired, I need to get sleep.
And that's just about a time-traveling wizard.
Yeah. Not quite a wizard, but yes.
It's close.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. anyways, it was Michael Bay. It's weird. His degradation was like, yeah, we left you unfettered, and as soon as we did, I feel like you got lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was more, not less like you got insane. It was more just like, my boss isn't watching me anymore, so I'm going to watch YouTube videos while you guys figure this out. You know.
They fight in this scene.
Yeah.
Okay. And remember Anthony Hopkins called him a genius because, like, he was, like, concerned about what paint job a Transformer had. Yeah. And Anthony Hopkins was like, wow, the level of detail that you're in. And it's like, Anthony, like, Mr. Hopkins, you're in good things. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Why? You are Hannibal.
Like, why? I wonder if he's an older guy. I wonder if he was just impressed by the technology.
Probably.
And, like, he's like, oh, people even think about this kind of stuff? Crazy.
Yeah, the technology doesn't do it.
Like, when you first find out, like, what, you know, like, a concept artist, right? You're like, oh, yeah, we throw away, like, hundreds of designs before we get to a final. People are, like mind boggled by that. They're like, oh, my God, like, you draw that much things, and then it doesn't get used, and, like, all, and...
You're like, but you have to understand that, like, you see this pile of vomit, looks kind of like that. Like, you don't want it.
Yeah. So I always wonder if, like, he just showed him, like, a computer screen. He's like, yeah, I made that red. And Anthony Hopkins was like, I've never seen this. This is super cool.
It probably is, because you remember a couple of months ago, Cal and I had a booth at the Capital Game Expo in Ottawa. And I was just talking with Ian last night at the Drink and Draw, and he's like, and we had this ourselves. People would come up and be like, so do you draw that? Yes. Yeah. How do you draw it? With a computer. Oh, did you draw it? Did you draw it yourself? I'm like, yeah, I drew it on a computer. But your computer did it. So what do you use? I use Photoshop. Okay, so what did you use to draw it though? I used Photoshop. Like, they don't understand that I actually put a pen to a digital paper basically and painted it, and that idea baffles them. Like, they think that I sit down and they're like, you do computer art? Computer makes art, not you.
Yeah.
Like,
I dealt with that a while. I've told you this story before, but, like, I had a friend who, when she was like, oh, how do you do your art? And I was like, oh, I do it in Photoshop. And now I've learned from that. I just say, like, there's a tablet that I use a draw. I explain the whole thing before I get to the Photoshop part.
Yeah.
But she was, like, convinced for a long time that, I don't know. I don't know what she thought Photoshop was, but I think she thought I was, like, taking photos and mashing them together to, like, create my art. And if you've ever seen my art, I don't even know how you do that. Like, I don't know how you get that effect.
You have to keep cutting single lines out of people's work and trying to merge them together. Like, that sounds about as hard as drawing things in the first place.
Yeah, that'd be actually pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was convinced that I was like... And then I think she finally saw the tablet and she was like, oh! And I was like... And then, like, and again, my mind was like, what were you thinking I did?
Alright, well, we'll move on to our last director. And the last guy who got unfettered and unrestrained in his skills and talents, and that is... I'm forgetting.
Judd Apatow.
Judd Apatow.
You might know him from The 40-Year-Old Virgin, which was, like, it kind of re-brought in the R-rated comedy at the time. Like, it was a huge success, and he went on to help produce, like, stuff like Knocked Up, and actually he went to direct that one, too. He produced Superbad, you know, like, stuff like that. Like, he's involved with all those kind of Seth Rogen movies, that kind of stuff.
He was one of the greats, and well, he still is one of the greats. I mean, that's the thing.
He has quite a legacy behind him, right?
Yeah, he does. Of launching some of the great comedic careers of today, from Seth Rogen and James Franco, Jason Segel, even. Like, a lot of them got their start in
Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, and in his movies and his creations, right? And he was kind of you're right, like the godfather of the 21st century R-rated comedy, right? And he did so many great films with that. And he launched Jonah Hill, God, you name it. Steve Carell, did he get his start in
40-Year-Old Virgin? It was one of his first big ones, for sure. I think he might have gotten The Office right after that. Yeah. It was around that time.
Yeah.
Honestly, with Judd Apatow, like, I think the last one I saw was This Is 40. And I just kind of feel like he's run out of stuff to say. Yeah, it's not so much like it's a bad movie. It's just like, I don't think you had the same heart in this one, or the same message, or you didn't get it across as clearly anyways.
Yeah, and I feel like that's part of his unfettered and unrestrained bit, right? Like, he goes through all of this stuff, writing all of his... Because I think he writes a lot of his stuff, too. And working and directing in all of these films. And then... now, when he's uncontrolled and unfettered, it's like, all right, Judd, we know you know how to write funny, so go write me some funny. And he writes funny based on stories in his own life and things he can relate to because that's a good comedian. But I think he's run out of things he can relate to. He's just been working too long, so he's like, shit, I'm up to date. and that's it. He's got nothing left to say. And
it's like you hear a lot of times that like an artist's first album is always their best because like they've had all their life in their head to write it. They get it out, and then after that, it's like, okay, now I have 2 years in between it or whatever, and like they can only pull from that.
And people go out. So a lot of artists even do that. They go out and they experience the world for a bit, and then come back and sing songs about their new experiences, right? I think
I kissed a girl and I liked it. The taste of her cherry chapstick.
Ew, don't keep going.
I don't know the lyrics.
Okay, good, perfect. We're in a good spot. But I feel like with Judd, they let him go and they're like, just go write and go create stuff. But I don't have any ideas. Just go do it. But I need someone to tell me what to. And like, that's where he loses it. Because any of the Judd Apatow films that have come out recently don't work. But the ones that Judd Apatow has worked with others on, like I think he worked with Amy Schumer on her film, didn't he?
That sounds right. He's also like an executive producer of Girls, which I know has a huge following with. But
like that's the thing. When he's restrained in those contexts, he puts in his input of what he does as a comedic and genius, and it comes out great. On his ones where he's left alone, lately it's just been like, all right, here we go. There's another Apatow.
This article we're looking at is Dissing Funny People, which I think is actually one of his best films. So I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and even on this article, they're dissing 40-Year-Old Virgin, which is his kind of masterpiece.
Yeah, I think it's magnum opus.
Yeah. So, but I think
I can see what they're saying though. Yeah, it just to me again, he's just kind of like lost the message. Yeah.
It's a curse for a lot of comedic movie makers and movie actors. So is that eventually at some point you're just kind of like, here we go, another Jim Carrey film, another Mike Myers film, another
Adam Sandler film.
Even Steve Carell had to go serious because I could not take another Steve Carell film.
Was he really? That was the first really serious one he did. He did it with that potato actor. That you like.
I don't like him, Channing Tatum.
Yeah. Channing Tatum.
Yeah, he did Foxcatcher.
Foxcatcher, yeah. That one was good.
That was a good movie.
That was really good.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Steve Carell proved he could do something else in comparison to like Jim Carrey, who went out and was like, I can be serious. I'm a person who's going insane because of a number. What was it? 44?
That was not the greatest. Number 7. That was not the greatest choice of a movie.
Yeah.
Was it 3, 4? I don't even fucking remember.
I don't know.
I like Truman Show. I think Truman Show was a good blend of serious and like
humor.
comedy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what
even Cable Guy actually was. I like Cable Guy.
Or who's the other one who did that? The main actor dude from Ghostbusters. Groundhog Day.
Dan Aykroyd? Oh, you mean Bill Murray?
Bill Murray.
Oh, Groundhog Day is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, great. I love Bill Murray films, the original ones. But then suddenly he started doing like the dark humor stuff, like The Life Aquatic and the one where he's in Tokyo the whole time.
Yeah, with Scarlett Johansson.
Oh
man, I like both those.
No, he got weirder and weirder.
Sure, he did. I like both those movies though.
I don't. But anyway.
Lost in Translation and Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. All right. Yeah. No, I think in general, I think it's always. I always want to see when you hear someone was restrained, and before you see what damage they can do. In my head, I always just want to see what the full creative control looks like. I think.
Yeah.
And after it gets to Transformers 7, I get what it looks like, but I think in general, I would always opt for them having creative control.
But that's the last point to make, is these guys were all geniuses who were reined in and held in, and they made great film, in comparison to everyone out there who thinks that, like, oh god, if we hold them back, they won't make any good. But creative things are a team effort. There's no such thing as one person that makes anything great, and there is a huge component to making sure that your team around you and listening to them and working with them makes great content. However, you're also right that, like, there isn't a right answer, because there could have been some great films out there. Who knows if Suicide Squad would have been a great film if he was left alone.
Well, I think that movie had time issues is what it was. They were like, write the script in 2 months and that's film it. No revisions. But yeah, for an example, right?
For an example, like there's other films recently of the same type, especially with the superhero movies, where you're just like, if you were not restrained as much as you were, would you have made a better film?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm always wondering about like studio meddling and stuff. And I'm like, was it for the best? Was it not? And you'll never know. It's a case by case basis. To the general public at the time, you're probably like, yeah, it is a good idea to give George Lucas episode 1, and then he did it, and you're like, oh, maybe not, like that kind of
And
thing.
then there's other contrasts to doing, like, taking control of a film, because then you'll take a look at Batman vs. Superman, which had so many reshoots, and also, or no, sorry, Suicide Squad had all the reshoots.
Yeah.
Yeah, Suicide Squad had all those reshoots, and then that was the company jumping in and trying to fix it, which just made it a shittier pile of shit. But then you take Rogue One, which the Disney jumped in and was like, "Oh shit, guys, you're fucking some stuff up in here. We need to fix this."
Yep.
And I can guarantee you, they made the right choices, and they made a wonderful, excellent film.
Mm-hmm.
So like, there's no, at the end of the day, with this whole segment, that we can't come up with an answer saying that they should be controlled or shouldn't be controlled.
So we just wasted all your fucking time. But I want to bring this up into a nice little loop. I started by talking about Dragon Ball Z. I'm going to end by talking about Dragon Ball Z. What? Akira Toriyama, creator of Dragon Ball Z, notoriously had
unfettered ridiculousness.
He was very I don't want to say controlled, but you know how like manga chapters work, right? They release them week by week. So when Dragon Ball Z was being written and drawn, people were giving him feedback. His editors, the higher ups, are on a weekly basis. They're being like, no, don't do this. Which is why if you watch Dragon Ball Z, they do the whole android arc. Mm-hmm. There's like an old man and a fat robot, and he's like, these are the villains. And his editors were like, fuck no. And he's like, shit. So they died in the next couple chapters. He brought in 2 new androids, the teenage androids, and they were like, this is just a boy and a girl. You need to do fucking better than this. Mm-hmm. And he's like, fuck. So then he made Cell. And Cell is one of the greatest villains in Dragon Ball Z. And we could have just had old man and fat albino, you know? So he like the meddling there did, but also that was, you know, to Akira Toriyama's credit that he could write by the seat of his pants. He's just like, I have no idea where this is going. You know?
Yeah, but then like Boo probably like designed like you designed a giant fat kid with a diaper.
Boo, I think Boo is where the editors gave up because he got to do a lot of stuff in that arc that I don't think he otherwise would have. Yeah. But yeah, everything up until that point, like they didn't even want in Dragon Ball, they didn't even want Goku to grow up. They were like, Dragon Ball just became like super successful, and you want to change it? You want to make him older? And he was like, yeah. And they're like, fine. And they let him do it, you know. And it happened, and then that's when Dragon Ball Z was like they became the more popular thing. Mm-hmm. So having him grow up was a good idea. So that's an example of like a little back and forth where, yeah, you're right, it's this creative process, right?
Yeah, but Toriyama would never have made Cell if they hadn't stopped him from making Fat Man.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's exactly this is a case where it's like a little bit of meddling, a little bit of letting him do his own thing. Yeah. You know, you let him off the leash, let him run in the field. When he's running close to the fucking highway, you're like, get back here.
It's like keeping on a leash, and every single time he just gets a little bit closer, you give him that yank.
Yeah. Or it's like, it's one of those like infinite leashes where they just keep going and going, but you can stop it anytime you want. Oh yeah, just let him roam. Let him roam. That's
the entire lot for like a movie theater with a bunch of directors on those leashes, running really far ahead. Then
Shane Black's like, why does Scorsese get so much room?
Yeah. Or no, his leash is broken and he's just running around the lot.
He just stops himself because he thinks he's tethered. Yeah. He's like, I won't lick that.
He's pretending like he's got one of those imaginary dog leashes, but there's no owner on it instead. And he's running around. It's like, my director's the best.
We heard the Shane Black's director was the best. Yeah. Who did you hear that from?
Actually, I gotta say though, I think we do have an answer to this. Is creatives are powerful people, and they have an engine inside them that helps them create amazing things. But at the end of the day, control or no control, given complete control, or given complete control from someone higher up, usually ends up with something bad. Too much control is bad. Too little on someone, and the creatives go nuts onto stupidity that's just too far beyond, that isn't going to actually work. It's always about working with your team. And I think in any case of any of these working well, it was when they were working with their teams correctly. So that's the answer. No matter what, there's a balance in the medium of all of it, and you shouldn't be saying leave them alone to do whatever they want. We get bad Netflix shows like Hemlock Grove, or Sense8 isn't a bad show because the second season turned out great, but the first one did feel like the Wachowski brothers kind of coming to terms, or sisters now, coming to terms with something internal with themselves at that point. It was very odd. But then we get amazing shows like the Duffer Brothers with Stranger Things, where things become amazing, and they were probably controlled in that season. I'm a little worried with season 2. Maybe they're like, "Oh, Duffers, you're great, go nuts." Yeah. But I've seen some of the other Duffer Brothers work. It's not all amazing. So it's this balance of like the studio getting their fingers in just right.
Yep.
It's like halfway. All the way is too much. It's a little too deep. 2 fingers, too many. Just one.
I'll just stick it in. You won't get pregnant. All right. Just halfway. Just a tip. Just a tip.
And that's where we end.
My name is Cal G, and you can find me on Twitter at @theCalG. Mike is at Mike Kent Draws.
You can find us on all things Pick Your Poison.
Oh, right.
Yes.
I was just thinking about Dragon Ball Z.
But
I think Vegeta's my favorite character.
You can find us on all social media. We're on everything, so pick your poison. You can also give us a like, share, and subscribe on Facebook and on SoundCloud, YouTube, Twitter, iTunes. Be sure to drop us a rating, and be sure to use the
Podchaser.
Podchaser.
Beta.podchaser.com.
Yeah.
Go there, type in the beta key, popcast, all lowercase, and go rate some episodes.
Yeah, and let us know what you think and give that thing a spin.
The Prince of All Saiyans!
I don't have a quote.
Special Beam Cannon!
I actually think, was this a thing that everyone thought it was special beam cannon?
Yep, not beam. But I mean, he didn't say it enough for you to be sure.
I always thought it because I thought he was a plant, so he shot like special beams.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
He's kind of a slug man.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.